Brits should definitely not visit Thailand just now. Moderna jabs to be imported by October. And an update on the new COVID-19 preventative measures. I'm Kieran Mack and you are listening to the Thai Expat Daily Show. So here is a story from the Pattaya News. Brits should definitely not visit Thailand just now. The British Health Secretary Matt Hancock has told Brits that holidays this summer should certainly not be taken in countries labelled amber by the government's traffic light travel guide. These off-limit countries include the popular European destinations of Italy, France, Greece and Spain, as well as Thailand, Vietnam and Cambodia. Mr. Hancock said he wanted his fellow countrymen to vacation at home or to choose one of the 12 green labelled countries which include the popular and cheap Portugal, where huge bookings are already resulting in 6-hour delays at British airports as holiday-starved Brits line up for overdue pleasure. Many of the green light countries such as Australia and New Zealand are not accepting tourists, while Singapore insists on prior government approval and a substantial 30,000 Singapore dollar insurance bond. Green listed countries also include the Faroe and Falkland Islands and Iceland, which are not famous as beach resorts and lack direct flights. Brits who decide to visit Thailand for any reason currently face many disincentives. They require a certificate of entry from the London-based Thai embassy, health clearance and COVID insurance worth at least 3 million baht. On arrival in Bangkok, courtesy of an expensive semi-commercial flight, they are subject to a self-paid 14 days hotel quarantine. For the return journey to the UK, Brits need COVID tests before departure and on arrival, as well as a 10-day self-quarantine at their home. Visits to red-listed countries, which currently include the Philippines, require hotel quarantine on return to the UK at a cost of £1,750. To all intensive purposes, trips to Southeast Asian countries by Brits are currently ruled out by the sheer expense. UK travel agents say a further problem is that if Thailand turned from amber to red in the British categorization, compulsory quarantine and returning would kick in immediately. Vacationers might not be covered by their insurance as they would be accused of ignoring official government advice. Thailand's main hope for a foreign visitor boost this year lie in the sandbox idea, whereby fully vaccinated foreigners would avoid quarantine on arrival here or in travel bubbles with Asian countries such as China and Japan. But it is far from clear that either route will actually see the light of day. Thailand's mass vaccination policy has so far inoculated less than 2% of the native population and virtually no foreign residents. Moreover, national and provincial restrictions mean that former popular hotspots such as Pattaya have had very few attractions as bars, clubs and all entertainment venues are shuttered. However, it is possible to dine in restaurants in an alcohol-free environment and jog up and down the beach without mingling. So it's quite an interesting story and a different viewpoint on it all, which maybe has been overlooked by the Thai government. Thailand's plan right now in dealing with the third wave here in Thailand seems to be to try vaccinate their way out of it rather than take the approach they did during the first wave, which was try to cut it out completely. However, my thinking with that is that by doing that and allowing the numbers to get out of control, it will somehow force Thailand to be put into the red traffic light system or the red zone in the UK and European countries, which would mean then that people from Europe would not be able to travel to Thailand. And this could be a very, very big problem for Thailand. It doesn't matter if Phuket gets down to 0 cases. Phuket is not a country. It is part of Thailand. So it will be included in the whole of the countries, and therefore the advice will be not to visit Thailand. This may be coming. Today we had nearly 10,000 cases. Now, when you take out the prison cases, it's about 3,000. But I don't think other countries go, they're in the prison, so they don't count. Of course not. They look at the daily number. So now they're going to see 10,000 cases today and maybe tomorrow 4,000. I think Thailand is digging itself into a hole where it won't be able to reopen because they won't have anybody or any countries that will be permitted, that will permit their citizens to come to Thailand. And if their citizens do, they'll be facing a big whopping 14-day hotel quarantine when they get back home. So this seems to be something the Thai government have missed out on with their whole reopening plan. So I hope that they try to get this under control, this outbreak here. It doesn't look like they are. It seems like they're going backwards rather than forward. So personally, I hope something gets done. But again, it's hard to know what this government is really up to right now. Moderna jabs to be imported by October. Moderna's COVID-19 vaccine, which will be offered as an alternative to AstraZeneca and Sinovac, is expected to be available in Thailand by October, while 2 million doses of Sinovac COVID-19 vaccine will add to the country's stockpile this month. The Secretary General of the Private Hospital Association said the association is coordinating with Zuellig Pharma Company, which is authorized to export the vaccine. He expects 5 to 6 million doses will be shipped to Thailand in the second half of this year. The Food and Drug Administration last week approved the registration of the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine from Rovi Pharma Industrial Services, based in Spain, Madrid. It is the fourth vaccine to be approved by the FDA after the AstraZeneca, Sinovac and Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Mr. Paiboon said that the price of Moderna shots will be set by the government pharmaceutical organization, which will procure the alternative vaccine supplies for distribution. He said recipients will be charged the standard price for the jabs and service fees, insisting private hospitals will not seek profit from distributing the COVID-19 vaccine. Chairman of Ramkang Hospital said private hospitals are surveying demand for the alternative vaccine and will inform the GPO. He said demand ranges from 10,000 doses to 1 million doses. However, he added people to get their shots as soon as possible so that they can have herd immunity. So, this is the Moderna vaccine that will be offered privately in private hospitals. I've read somewhere the price will be about 3,000 baht for the 2 doses, around that. That will include a service fee and also an insurance fee. Covering if something were to happen to you from taking the drug. It's interesting that there's still no talk of getting Johnson & Johnson into the country, even though they've actually approved it. And Johnson & Johnson would be a great big help because it's one shot only. And therefore, if you order 5 or 6 million doses, that's enough for 6 million people. So there seems to be no talk about that. So I wonder why they ever even bother to approve it if nobody's going to order it. No word either on the Pfizer that they spoke about, or the Sputnik 5 that they've spoken about, or the Indian vaccine as well. So it's hard to know what's going on really at the moment. But this seems to be somewhat positive for people who would be looking for an mRNA vaccine. They say maybe around October. Could be before it. Could be a little bit after it. Who knows? But it's something positive if you don't want to take AstraZeneca and you don't want to take Sinovac. Now, something I wanted to do today was to update people on the regulations that were announced a couple of days ago by the government, because there seems to be a little confusion about them and what it means for people around the country. So firstly, they've updated the provinces and they've based them on dark red, red and orange. Why they've chosen these colours, I'm not quite sure, but nevertheless, anyway, surely red, orange and green would have been a better way to go. But anyway, dark red now just has 4 provinces: Bangkok, Nonthaburi, Pathum Thani and Samut Prakan. Then you have your red zone and then you have your orange zone. Orange zone are the least controlled, and as you can see, provinces like Phuket have now dropped into it, and Chiang Mai and Chiang Rai. Another thing that has changed are the new COVID-19 preventative measures. So dark red zones, as you can see there, for educational are not allowed to use buildings and premises for teaching and or conducting any activities with many people. For red zones, they're allowed to use buildings and premises for teaching and conducting activities with many people as necessary. And orange, allowed to use buildings and premises and conducting activities with many people as necessary. Sporting facilities in dark red zones. Closed setting facilities remain closed. Outdoor facilities can operate until 9 p.m. without spectators. For red zone, all facilities can open until 9 p.m. with limited numbers. And for orange, basically everything can be open. Everything can be open there. In relation to mask wearing, it is mandatory in every province, no matter what zone. So if you're going outside for whatever reason, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 2 minutes, you need to have your mask on you, or you can be fined, or you can be imprisoned, or you can be deported. So please follow those rules to keep things kind of like, kosher for yourself. For gatherings in dark red zones, no gatherings of more than 20 persons. And for the other 2 zones, no gatherings of more than 50 people. Now, for diners, so this was one of the changes that came into place. Dark red zones, dine-ins until 9 p.m. with 25% seat capacity, and takeouts until 11 p.m. No alcohol. For red zones, dine in until 11 p.m. Again, no alcohol. And orange zone restaurants can open as normal hours, but alcohol sales are not allowed. Convenience stores are open from 4 a.m. to 11 p.m. And for orange zones, they can operate at normal hours, standard safety protocols. And then finally, the one we all want to know about now, joking. Nightclubs and bars, okay? Dark red zones, they're all closed. Everything's closed until further notice. Shopping malls, all shopping mall venues can operate until 9 p.m. with limited number of shoppers inside and without special events that could draw would draw crowds. Now, just to also explain this. Now, these are what the new COVID-19 preventative measures are. This is from the government. But the provincial governors have the authority to override these. They can make them stricter or they can make them less restrictive. And in provinces like Phuket, they still do not allow restaurants to stay open after 9 o'clock. No alcohol is being served still. There's a lot of measures still in place that now they're in orange zone, but have, for say example, they're using dark zone rules. So it doesn't matter what the government say. At the end of the day, you also need to consult the provincial code and what they have released. So if they haven't released a new order, then the existing or the pre-order is still in existence and is still being followed. So you must follow that. And that's basically, it can be a bit confusing because we hear the government say this and then you look in your own province and they're doing something completely different. They're allowed to do that under the government's idea of delegating this job to the governors. Whether they're competent or not, that's a whole other story. So anyway, just so you're aware of these things and make sure, we can all, get through this and kind of get back to our normal lives, just so they're the rules and regulations. Thanks for tuning in today. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and don't forget to leave us a 5-star rating. We are available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you like to listen to your podcasts. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you tomorrow.